Okay, well, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are ready to begin this presentation. We have Liz Arnold with Young and Healthy. Her presentation titled Building Resilience Through Empathy and Connection. Before Liz begins her presentation, please be aware that we are recording this session. If you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your microphone and turn off your camera. And if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with the presenter or the group, please post them in the chat box. We are also offering Spanish interpretation services for those who may need it. And I will say this in Spanish. Para los que necesiten interpretación al español, estamos ofreciendo estos servicios de dos maneras. En la parte de abajo de su pantalla, de la pantalla de Zoom, hay un globo que usted puede presionar ahí, como una imagen como de un globo, y escoger el español como su lenguaje para escuchar la presentación al español. También se está transmitiendo esta sesión en vivo por medio del canal de YouTube de Collaborate Pasadena. En la sección del chat también se ha puesto el enlace para que usted pueda ir al canal de YouTube de Collaborate Pasadena. Okay, and vamos a comenzar ya. Liz, we're ready, whenever you're ready.
All right. Good. Okay, I thought I was hearing some feedback, but I think we're good. All right, good morning, everybody. I can't believe it, but this is our last session for the school year. Like, I can't believe that this has happened so fast. We were just talking about that with Teresa, about how fast your kids grow up, and here we are. The school year has come and gone. So we're after today. We've got a couple things scheduled. We'll put it, hopefully, Rosie, can we put that in the chat at the end, what the other dates are that we've got for the summer? And then starting in September, we'll get back into this. But I'm going to miss you all very, very much. I'm really going to miss you. So today, though, we're going to talk about that empathy and connection and how that helps us to build resilience. As you all know, I'm Liz from Young and Healthy. I am the program coordinator of our education and volunteer programs at Young and Healthy. And I've been just so honored to have this opportunity as part of Young and Healthy to work with all of you in our new initiative, which is really about prevention. We are a 31-year-old healthcare services organization in Pasadena who provides healthcare services, direct healthcare services to kids through an all-volunteer network of medical professionals who donate their services in their own offices. So our kids can go to the pediatrician, to the orthopedist, to get glasses, to go to the dentist, and then they go to a regular old doctor's office and nobody gets charged, not Young and Healthy and not the family. And then we also have our insurance enrollment and support services where families can come into our office and work with an expert on enrolling in the insurance that's the best match for their family. And then we help support families through that because it's hard to use your insurance sometimes. And so we've got that, that support piece that happens. And then, as I mentioned, our prevention services, one of them being our parent education, because we know that when our families are strong, when we have good emotional connections, when we have healthy, when we are aware of how our mental health impacts our physical health, that's when we're at our best. And so we are bringing this to the community, and I'm so honored that I've been able to have this opportunity to be a part of this initiative in this way and meet all of you. And just like all of you and our kids, we're trying to figure out how to do this thing from home or do it from wherever and be able to still provide great services. One of the things that we've been able to do is get a grant in partnership with Day One that brings, that helps families to file their income taxes and take advantage of the earned income tax credit. Again, it goes along with our prevention services, which is that if we can decrease poverty a little bit, even a little bit, we can improve the family's health, reduce the stress, and that way families can focus more on their family, right? And getting kids, help kids with their schooling and help them to graduate. And so, yes, tax season is over, but we're going to keep working on it all year so that next year when tax season rolls around, we will be really strong and ready to help even more families. This year, Young and Healthy was able to help about 120 families to file their taxes and take advantage of this earned income tax credit. So look for more of this as we go through, and we're building resilience. Why do we talk about resilience? Because resilience is what we're going to need. We needed it before the pandemic. We really needed it during the pandemic. And we're going to need it after, when things go back to whatever the new normal is. We're always going to need resilience because our kids need to be adaptable, to have a positive response when they're faced with adversity. I just want to say that doesn't mean that we don't have that, 20 minutes with our heads, maybe longer, right, of our face in the pillow while we're just crying and upset by the whole thing. But but we come out of it, right? We need to acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes we get really sad. Sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes it's hard, maybe even feels hopeless. But it's about being able to being able to put that in perspective, like not let that be the biggest thing. And what are some things that we need around resilience in order to develop resilience? Optimism, the ability to have a positive attitude, emotional awareness and control. Awareness meaning I understand I'm having feelings. I recognize my feelings. I know my feelings exist and I can talk about them. And then that control, which leads into impulse control, right? I don't respond or react to my feelings. I recognize my feelings and then I'm thoughtful about how I respond. And that's impulse control. Flexible and accurate thinking is the ability to not only look at information, but also to be flexible. I don't know what's coming. We're gonna have to figure it out. Let me figure this out as I go along. Not what I expected, but I can kind of, I can be flexible. I can think about it. And then I can be accurate about it. I'm gonna take information, but check it out. Make sure I'm looking at it the right way. Self-efficacy is this can-do attitude. I can do it. We sometimes call it agency, right? The ability to say, I am capable, right? And we have to practice being capable. We have to practice decision-making. Today, we're gonna talk about one of my favorite topics. You guys, those of you who've listened to me over time or know me well, know that this is I lead with empathy and connection all the time, right? Because to me, empathy and connection is kind of the answer to most questions. So we're going to talk about how empathy and connection helps to build resilience. And I also just want to reiterate that what our kids need most from you is you, right? What they really need is that connection with you. Yeah, I know all this other stuff gets really important, and I know everybody, we talk about the learning gap, and we talk about those kinds of things when we talk about what's happened over the pandemic. But what really is going to make the biggest difference is how connected our kids feel to us. Because we are born to be in connection with one another. Our brains are made to connect with one another. We feel safest, we feel most confident when we know we have somebody who's there, who's showing up for us, right? Academically, connection is what we need first, right? I can't learn if I don't feel safe. I can't learn if I don't feel connected. And so what we need to show up for our kids. And what that means is that we bring our whole being and attention and our awareness when we're with our child. I did a presentation last night about screen time, and maybe we'll slip that in over the summer. But I got to tell you, how many of you had a conversation with your kid today or yesterday, because it's still early, probably already today though, with your cell phone in your hand, either answering a text or looking at an email or doing something, right? How many of you, or did something else with someone else where your attention was divided? We need to be aware of the fact that when we are holding our phone or looking at something else or doing something on the computer, we are not giving our kids our whole attention. And what they need is our whole attention. So we've got to be really aware of when we're doing that. And we're not looking for perfection, right? This showing up doesn't mean you're perfect. Connecting with your kids doesn't mean that you've got this all figured out. Tina Payne-Bryson, who you guys know is one of my favorite authors, she wrote along with Dan Siegel, The Power of Showing Up. And what she said in a conference not that long ago that I listened to is 30% of the time, most parents only get it right 30% of the time. 30% is not, I mean, to me, that's a small number, although it made me feel great because I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe if I'm halfway to 30%, I'm not doing as bad as I thought I was doing, right? But we don't have to be perfect. We just need to show up. When you're not sure how to respond in a certain situation, don't worry. Just remember, all they need is for you to be in it with them, for you to let them know, yeah, I'm not sure how to do this right now, but we're in it. We're going to figure this out together. We're going to do what we have to do to get through this. As long as they know you're there, you're good. Whether you can't, know it or not, you don't have to be perfect. Just want to make sure I reiterate that. We're not looking for perfection. None of us can be perfect. But it also means that connecting means being physically present as well as providing quality of presence, right? What am I doing? What are we spending quality time together? What are we doing as far as the quality of our presence? Am I really with you? Am I really focused on you? This is one thing where the research is clear. The best predictor of a child's outcome, right, of their happiness, their emotional development, their academic success is having only one adult who shows up for them. Just one is all it takes, is one. I say this often, way back when I was an undergrad, a child development undergrad, all the research said this. All the research said it just takes one adult to change a child's trajectory in life. And fast forward 35 more plus years, and it's the same. The research still says the same thing, right? All the research I'm reading, new research says the same exact thing, same outcome. So showing up, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know all the answers. You just got to show up. What does that look like? Okay, so the first thing is that we want to make sure we're meeting the 4 S's, okay? Seen or safe, seen, soothed is what leads to feeling secure. What does that mean? So when we talk about how we can help our kids to feel safe, we're talking about helping them feel protected and sheltered from harm, not only physically, but emotionally and relationally as well. Are you safe? Can I come to you, right? And know that I can share who I am, that I can rely on you to help me solve problems, that I can rely on you to comfort me, right? That's what we need to make sure our kids feel protected and sheltered when they are with us. Not afraid, sheltered, protected. And then how do we help our kids to feel seen? When they know that you care about them and pay attention to them, right? When we pay attention to their emotions, both positive and negative, which also means we pay attention to their behavior, right? We recognize that behavior is communication. So sometimes when kids are behaving, most of the time, when kids are behaving in a certain way, it could mean that they have big feelings and they're trying to communicate those big feelings with us. And so we can stop and say, what's behind the behavior? I was talking to a friend yesterday who was telling me that her teenage son was like, his behavior was kind of all over the place, right? And she was like, something's going on with him. Something's going on with him. Like his behavior's kind of like it's not the norm, right? And so she said she just finally realized, I need to ask him. And so she asked him what was going on. And as a result of her asking, he shared with her, I feel hopeless. Does that mean I'm depressed? And then she was able to get the intervention that he needed. But it was because she slowed down, looked, and recognized he doesn't need me to address his behavior in a disciplined kind of way. He needs me to address his behavior in a curiosity kind of way. Like, what's going on? Tell me what's happening that's making you behave in a certain kind of way. So that's what being seen is. And then soothed means that we're going to know that they know that we'll be there for them when they're hurting, right? Whatever it is, whether I agree with what happened, whether I agree with your behavior, I am here for you, and I'm going to be there for you when you're hurting. I'm going to be your safe harbor. So that's when we talk about how what this leads to. It leads to feelings of being secure and connected, right? I know that you'll keep me safe. I know that you'll see me. I know that you'll look beyond whatever behavior there is and see who I really am inside. I know that you'll soothe me, that you're predictable and I can count on you, which helps our kids to feel at home in the world. They will have, if they know that you're predictable, they can count on you. What they will then learn is the world is kind of mostly predictable and I can count on, and then I feel like I have a secure place. And when that doesn't work out, I can come back to you because you are my safe harbor, right? And you will help me work it out. And then we also, as our kids get older, want to help them to be their own safe harbor, right? I know I can help myself to feel safe. I can figure out what I need so that I feel safe. I can help myself to feel seen. I'll become a better communicator. So I can say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, rather than maybe using some other behaviors, right? Our brains are going to look for what they need. And sometimes that means they're going to have to try out a whole bunch of different behaviors before they get the right response. And then I can help myself to feel soothed. I can know what I need and provide it for myself. Maybe I need 5 minutes alone. Maybe I need a deep breath or a walk around the block, or maybe I need to ask for a hug, right? What do I need so that I can soothe myself? We're going to transfer that responsibility from ourselves to our kids as they get older. And then, of course, remember, brain development matters. When our kids are able to feel safe and connected, their midbrain is calm, which means they have full access to their thinking learning brain. And that's what we really want. We want that full access to their thinking learning brain. But if they go into their midbrain because they're feeling unsafe, because they're not feeling soothed, because they're not feeling secure, they don't have access to the thinking learning brain. And we want to make sure they have that access as often as they can. Because what happens when we connect is our kids feel better. They're more successful emotionally. What does that mean? They're able to have better relationships. And then they can do better academically. And honestly, when we slow down and take the time to connect, parenting actually becomes easier. I know that sounds like grandiose, and I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2 days, but it does. When we can communicate with our kids, when our kids know that we're that safe place, it becomes easier. They can communicate, they can talk to us, they can tell us how they feel, rather than we have to figure out what's going on. So what does it look like? A couple things. First thing I'm going to say, how do we make sure our kids feel seen? Well, when our kids are seen, sometimes that means they need a minute, right? I recognize that right now you're having really big feelings, and I'm going to give you a minute to kind of calm down so that we can get back to kind of a centered, get out of that midbrain, calm your midbrain, so that we can get back to a place where we can problem solve, where we can talk about things. But in the heat of that moment, when they're feeling when the big feelings have taken over, they can't be good thinkers. They can't be good problem solvers. And neither can we when our midbrain takes over, right? When we have big emotions, when our kids trigger us. What are some things that trigger parents? Like, what are some things that trigger you? Maybe some things might be whining. Maybe whining just triggers you, or shouting, or arguing, or when they don't listen the first time, or transitioning away from that screen time can be so hard. That triggers us. And then we need a minute before we can be good problem solvers. So everybody needs to be seen. Everybody needs to give them a minute. And then how do we make our kids feel safe? Some other ways that we can do things we can do. Listen. I can just listen to you. That does not mean that I think what you just did, or your behavior, or what's happening, that I agree with. It just means that I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear you out. I'm going to let you have your feelings. And then how do we soothe our kids? By understanding them. By soothing can be just some empathy. I am so sorry. That must have really been hard for you. Doesn't mean that I think it's great that you did something, that you were screaming before, or whining, or whatever, but we can acknowledge the feeling behind the behavior, and that's soothing, right? That gets everybody back into their midbrain, gets everybody feeling connected. Some other ways that we can connect is apologize when we mess up. Maybe that wasn't the way you were raised, right? Maybe you weren't raised with adults who came to you and said, I'm so sorry, I kind of messed up the way I handled that. Can I have another shot? or gosh, I'm not proud of the way I just handled that. I'm sorry. Let's try again. So we can apologize when we mess up. And remember what I said earlier, we're gonna mess up, right? Uh-oh. My whole thing just went black. I don't know what's happening. Did I lose the connection? Todd, help. Todd, help. Okay, am I there? Sorry, I was yelling for my IT to help me, but I think we're good. All of a sudden, everything went black. So I don't know. Did we have a Rosie? Did we have a? Did I go down for a minute?
I got like a white screen, but no, I can see your slides now.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was calling for my husband to help me, so I apologize if I was. Anyway, okay, so you can see my slides now?
Yes, I see your cursor moving, but I don't. Oh, okay, yeah. Are you seeing the background noise?
No, that's okay. Tell me what you're seeing so we can get back on track here. Are you seeing? Okay. Now are you seeing the slide? Are you seeing the slide with the boxes on it?
Yes, on how do we connect?
Perfect. Okay. Just want to make sure. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulty, I guess. All of a sudden, my screen just went black, so I apologize. Anyway, back to apologize when we mess up. So it's okay. It's okay to say I'm sorry to my kid. When we do that, we also model what we want them to do if they make a mistake, right? So they're learning from us. How do I handle it when I make a mistake? Do I just say, too bad, that's the way it goes? Or do I say, oh, yeah, I messed up and I'm really sorry. How can I make it better? And then of course, we show up for our kids. We're there. We put our phone down. We turn away from our computer. Maybe it's even we put down the sponge and stop washing the dishes so that we turn around and actually talk to them. How many times in my life have I said to anyone, my kids most frequently, of course, hey, go ahead. I'm just going to keep doing this, but I'm listening. It doesn't really work, does it? You're not really able to do both things. I know this. That multitasking, you can't focus on two things. And what a huge message it is to our kids when we put everything else down and just focus on them while they talk to us. Doesn't that make you feel good when somebody else does that for you? Right? I was with somebody yesterday, and while I was talking to her, all of a sudden she pulled out a calendar and started looking at the calendar. I was like, okay, I guess I'm bothering you. Right? I'm going to leave because obviously you're not interested. You don't want to have the conversation. You're busy with other things, just be there and listen. Again, it doesn't mean that we agree with what they're saying, but we have to listen and leave the judgment behind. If those are their feelings, they get to have them, right? They get to have their feelings. We can address behavior separately, but the feelings behind the behavior need to be acknowledged. I already said, be present, don't rescue. I am bad at this. I always want to jump in and fix everything, right? My kids call me with something, they're 24 and 27, and they will call me with something and say, and I will right away try to come up with a solution. And they're not calling because they want a solution. They're calling me just because they want to talk, they want to connect, right? And I'm not helping them if I rescue them. If I give them the solution, I'm not helping them to become better problem solvers in the world. Problem solving is a skill that we learn, right? We need to practice it in order to learn it. So we have to give our kids as much opportunity to solve their own problems as they can. Acknowledge those big feelings. I can see that you're feeling very overwhelmed right now. Oh boy, it seems to me like you're angry. Am I right? Acknowledge those feelings. Avoid asking too many questions. Especially our teenagers, right? You keep asking, keep asking, and then all of a sudden they turn off. They're like, don't ask me any more questions. I'm done. Try not to get hooked, which means when they come to you and they're upset and we meet them at their level of upset or exceed it, right? We get upset for them. But what they need us to do is they need us to be the calm so that we can quiet their storm, right? It's our job to be their calm when they come to us so that we can help quiet the storm and they can get calm. Spend time together that has nothing to do with anything. Have fun just for the sake of having fun, right? Spend that kind of time together, even if it's just a few minutes. Spend some time together. And then predictability over perfection. Our kids don't need us to be perfect. They just need to know we're going to be there when they need us, that we're going to be the calm in their storm, right? That we're going to be able to be there. And then one thing that I always say is relationship is number one. What does that mean? That means that everything I do, I filter through, is this going to be beneficial to my relationship with my child in the long run? Or does this have the potential to damage my relationship with my child? And if it's the latter, if this has the potential to damage the relationship with your child, then I'm going to say, try again, right? Try to problem solve this a different way then, because the relationship is number one. Without that, none of it, the rest of it matters. You can't be an influencer if you don't have a relationship. And then when we show up, our kids feel safe overall. They have a sense of belonging. They know that even when things don't go their way, they're okay. They don't have to fall apart if everything doesn't go exactly the way they were planning or hoping, because they have that safe place. They have you. And when we show up for our kids, it actually smooths things out for them, especially when they're going through a big challenge, if we're right there with them. And remember, a little bit of empathy goes a long, long way. And I think we should write a song about that. What is empathy? Empathy is helping the other person to feel felt, so that not only do I hear you and sympathize with you, but I feel what you're feeling. I understand that you're feeling. When we listen with empathy, it means that we're trying to see the world through someone else's eyes, right? I want to understand how you felt about that. That may not have been how I felt about it, or that may not be how I interpreted that, but empathy means that I listen to you in such a way that I'm understanding what your experience was, how you interpreted that. And I'm also going to say that without exception, empathy is always, always appropriate. It's not leniency. It's not permissiveness. It's just understanding, right? It's always appropriate. Some other things to remember is that our kids are trying. They really are trying. Maybe it doesn't feel that way sometimes, but they really are trying. But they're still learning. There's a lot of things that they're still learning. Remember that problem solving part of our brain is the last part to fully mature. And it's a work in progress through their 20s. So almost until the age of 30, they're still working on it. And depending on who you are, some of us are still working on it. They're still learning to resist temptation. Being able to resist temptation is self-control, and that's a hard thing to learn. And then when we insist that something has to be done our way, without listening to how our kids feel about it, we have the potential to end up in a lose-lose situation where our kid walks away feeling bad, we walk away feeling bad. Nobody learned anything other than anger and distrust. And so listening and compromising when appropriate is going to be the best way to achieve a win-win. All right, our kids need 12 hugs a day. We all actually need 12 hugs a day. Now, that does not mean that we need to, number one, keep a checklist. Okay, I gave my kid, I'm only on 8 hugs and it's already almost time for bed. I better find a way to give him 4 more hugs, right? It's not about that. And hugs are not all physical hugs, right? It's not only about going over and throwing your arms around someone and squeezing on them, especially during this time of virtual learning and virtual connecting with people. I know we're working on getting back out into the world. I saw a news piece this morning that hugs are now allowed. We're allowed to hug each other again. We're not allowed to shake hands. Shaking hands, bad. Hugging, we can do, especially if people, if you're masked when someone's not vaccinated, hugs are good again. So I was really excited to hear that because we all need hugs. We all need hugs. But what are some other ways that we can hug our kids that are not necessarily a physical, throw our arms around each other hugs? Verbal hugs. I know that I try really hard to let people know when I see them on screen to say, it's good to see you, right? That's a verbal hug. That's me saying, hey, I'm so excited that you're there. And I hope you feel hugged when I say, gosh, it looks good to see your face. It's good to talk to you. It's good to see you. A verbal hug, I love you, is a verbal hug. Or I'm proud of who you are. I'm proud to be your mom. I say that to my kids often. I'm really proud to be your mom, right? This is really cool. You make me proud. So the verbal hugs. Visual hugs, a smile, a wink, maybe some other fun facial expression that you share with your kids so that they know that you're looking at them and kind of giving them a hug visually. Environmental hugs can be things that we set up in our environment that make our kid feel safe and secure, right? So maybe it's that we've set them up in a place where they can feel safe with doing their schoolwork, or they have a calming corner or a place that they can go where they feel calm and safe, right? Those are environmental hugs, setting things up for them so that they feel safe and warm. And then there's acts of service. Little things like my husband every morning makes my coffee for me. Act of service. It's a hug. It feels like a hug when I go into the kitchen and my coffee's already made. It feels like a hug. And there are little things we can do for our kids like that. Things like, hey, I see how hard you're working. I know it's your chore to take out the trash today. I'm going to do it for you right now because I can see how hard you're working on your schoolwork. Let me just take care of that for you. Act of service, right? Something that we can do for our kids. We make their lunch. We do special little things for them. Maybe you leave a Post-it note that says, I love you, right? Kind of an environmental hug and an act of service, kind of a verbal hug, right? It's kind of combines all of that. But little things like that, little acts of service. And then there's quality time together where we're just focused on one another, right? It's that one-on-one time, that time where I say, hey, this is about you and me. And that's not in the heat of a moment, right? Quality time can't happen when we want to talk about something while our kid is feeling overwhelming emotions or we're feeling overwhelming emotions. Quality time is the time that we spend together when we're all calm and we're doing something that's mutually beneficial, that's mutually enjoyable, right? So taking that time, schedule it if you have to, put it on your calendar, right? This is my time for my number one kid. This is the time for my number two kid, and take that time, right, to get with them. Take that time together. And then remember, of course, that the best messages all are, I love you. So simple. That we're conveying to our kids that we believe they are a person of infinite worth. Nothing's more important to me than you. And then I know that your behavior is just a tiny part of who you are. And all you are, I love. I love you. Maybe I don't love that certain behavior, but just because I don't like what you just did doesn't mean I don't love you. That's a really hard message sometimes for parents to get across. And so being very aware of, okay, I love you. I don't love it that you just yelled at your sister, but that doesn't mean I don't love you still. So let's talk about other ways that you could handle conflict with your sister. And we can get past that and learn something. All right. The next thing, this is what you can do for you, right? Because in order to be a person who can connect, we need to be connectable, right? We need to be calm. We need to be taking care of ourselves. I know self-care, right? We've all heard self-care over the last year, and I know some people are really tired of hearing the term self-care. But we do need to pay attention to ourselves. We do need to take care of ourselves. We cannot be great for other people if we aren't taking good care of ourselves, right? We can't pour from an empty cup. So what are some things that you can do? One of them is just eat well. While we're learning new things, while we're kind of navigating things in a different way, learning new routines, managing all of the things that we're trying to manage, our brain is very busy and working extra hard for us. And one of the things that we need then is to give our brain good fuel, which means we have to eat well. About 80% of the calories that we consume are actually used by our brains. And thus and so, if we are only eating food that's not that great for us, we're not going to be supporting our brain during this time of challenge, right? So what we need to do is give ourselves healthy fuel, and our kids too. Now that the last year we've all been home, everybody's talking now about how do I lose the COVID weight that I put on, me myself included. we've been close to our kitchens. We've had access and time to go do things that we might not have been able to eat and do while if things were a little different. So be aware of that. Do our best to get some good sleep. Our brains are, again, working overtime. Maybe it's really hard to turn it off. Maybe you're having a hard time getting to sleep at night because your brain is moving, your thoughts are flying so fast and hard. Or maybe you feel like you want to sleep a little bit more. And that's okay too. If you feel like you need a nap and you can get one in, do it. It's okay. We're all really working hard right now. Our brains need different things. But what we can do to try to help with good sleep is to set up positive or healthy bedtime routines. When we tell our brain, when our brain knows what's coming next, it's easier to transition into that activity. Sleep is the same way. If every night we have that cup of tea, if every night we maybe read a little bit or turn on some calming sounds or whatever it might be that helps you to transition your brain to sleep, it's good for us to do that. We do that with our kids, with our infants especially, right? So we can do that for ourselves as well. And then the compassion and forgiveness piece is so important. Let it go. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. I think I only said that on 5 slides earlier. So maybe I need a 6th slide, right? That says, please, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to put in effort. You just need to try. And so when you miss, when you maybe don't feel super proud of how you handled the day or a situation, that's okay. Go back and make the repair and forgive yourself. Have some compassion. Remember that you are going through hard stuff too, right? This is hard. Meditate or use mindfulness exercises. I'm going to do a breathing exercise with you in a few minutes or a minute or two. But spending time on mindfulness can really be beneficial. Mindfulness does not mean you have to meditate. I know I have meditate on this slide. Meditation, the word meditation kind of makes me a little anxious, right? I don't do well with just sitting quietly with my thoughts and trying to, focus on that. I need more active mindfulness. So I listen to music as a way to get kind of in a mindful place or a meditative place. Maybe, you like to cook, and that can be kind of your mindfulness exercise, or you can go for a walk and look at the clouds. Whatever it is that makes you feel focused, that's what you should do. And then of course, exercise is something, again, a lot of us have ignored during COVID, during the stay-at-home period of time that we've been experiencing. But even just a few minutes of exercise makes a difference. When you change your physical route, when you move your body, you actually flip your brain into a different perspective. And sometimes that's what we need. 10 minutes out of every hour, we should be getting up and moving around a little bit, even if you're standing at your desk, or take a walk around the house, or go get a glass of water and come back. Even if you can just get 1 or 2 minutes every hour, we need to get up and move. Exercise, I'm not saying, we need to be doing Zumba or, listening to aerobics on, YouTube, but we need to move a little bit more, and that'll help to get your brain activated, get your brain moving. And then let's do this breathing exercise. I've got 2 exercises we can do. So let's give it a try. This is the one that this is my go-to, right? I use this all the time, this 4-7-8 breathing. I love this because it's simple, not much to remember here. And even if you forget the numbers, like you're like, what did Liz say? What were the numbers? 5, 9, 8, what was it? As long as you remember that your exhale needs to be longer than your inhale, you're good, because that's what brings down your heart rate. So don't worry so much about the numbers, even though I go with the numbers. But before we start, I just want you to take a second and kind of check in with yourself, if you're able to. I know a lot of you have a lot of stuff going on around you right now. Maybe you're listening in, but just take a second and try to recognize how you're feeling. Just feel it. You don't have to judge it. Don't worry about it. Just check in. And we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do that one more time. In through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Check in one more time. You notice anything different? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's okay. But this is a really great exercise when you need to take a minute, right? When you know something I'm about to do or say something that I might regret later. Take a second, do the breathing. You can do this anywhere, anytime. It's also great to help you get to sleep. And you can do this with your kids. You can say to your kids, hey, let's do this breathing exercise with me, and let them follow your breathing pattern. Really cool to teach them. All right, we're gonna do one more. This one's a grounding exercise. I've been doing this one a lot. I like it a lot. I get a lot of positive responses from it because it helps us to be in the here and now. Again, it's something that we can do with our kids to get them grounded. This really helps when our kids are starting to feel anxious and need to get to feel really present. It's a great one to do for that. Our kids can get up around if they need to while we're doing this one, but they don't have to, right? We can do this one just sitting where we are. And right now I'm going to ask you to do this one just sitting where you are. I want you to look around and notice 5 things that are around you. Just look around and name them in your head or out loud, maybe, whatever you want to do. Now look around and think about 4 things that you can touch. Think about 4 things that you can see that if you reached out, you would know what they felt like. Like I have some lavender on my desk. If I reached out, that would be coarse, right? And crumbly probably. What 3 things can you hear? I always end up, when I do this, I can hear the whir of my computer working, right? So 3 things you can hear right now. 2 things that you can smell. Right? I still have my coffee this morning. I have a candle on my desk. What are some things, 2 things around you that you can smell? And what's something you can taste? Even if it's just icy cold water. Icy cold water speaks to our amygdala. It helps to calm our midbrain. It kind of gets our brain activated and moving. So even just water, one thing that you can taste. Another note on water is when we are learning new things, remember, we need twice as much water as we do under other circumstances. So drink extra water because we're all working extra hard and learning extra new things during this period of time, most especially. Okay. And then try to be the youth. I love this from Brad Montague. His book, Becoming Better Grown-Ups, is one of my favorites. And I love this. Be who you needed when you were younger, right? If we filter things through that, kind of helps with that connection. Okay, questions, thoughts, comments, conversations. Anybody have anything for me today? It was kind of a feel-good one. This was kind of just a connection. Rosie's got the Parent University page in there. I am pasting. I forgot to paste. I put in the link to our virtual sign-in sheet. If you would just take a second and go to our virtual sign-in sheet right there in the chat and fill in the information that's requested. This is 3048 is the course number. That really helps us out when you guys do that. So thank you so much for clicking on that link.
Liz, you asked me to post the dates for your summer sessions.
Yeah, do you have them?
Yeah, I'll post them right now.
That's cool. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's June 17th is the first one, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to talk about some ways to kind of survive the summer, some things you can do to help our kids get ready for how to engage our kids during the summer and how to kind of prep them for going back to school even in the fall. And then in July, right, Rosie? July, we're going to do we're going to do some things that we've learned, and probably have a little bit, wait until we have a little bit more information about when school, what school's going to look like on, when we start school, so we can talk about some ways to prep our kids for that and prep ourselves for that, and how to talk to our kids about that. So we'll do that on July 22nd.